Hello everyone, good afternoon or good morning depending on where you are watching this live stream from. I'm Vincent and this is the second episode of the Coffee Breaks. Today we are here as always to talk about the Adobe Substance 3D ecosystem, and this time we are going to focus on Substance 3D Stager, which is our staging and rendering application. We are not going to lose too much time, so I'm going to share my screen directly with you. First, if you are in the chat, say hi, so I know more or less how many people we have. We don't have that much right now. It's going to grow by the time. As always, if you have any question, don't hesitate to ask them directly in the chat. You can mention me, or like this, as we are not a lot, I will see there directly. I have the chat in front of me. So let's share the desktop and see the interface of Adobe Substance 3D Stager. So before to start, here is the kind of render you can have real time right now. This is not a picture, this is I can select any object, I can change the live stream. I just make this like in 5 minutes. Meanwhile, I was waiting for you, so you can have an idea of what it will look at the end. That's more or less the scene we are going to look at. This is an introduction to Substance 3D Stager, so if you are really advanced, if you have been using it for a while, you may grab some stuff here and there, but mostly you already know this. That said, let's start by the beginning and going to the small home here to display the welcome page. So the welcome page, not too much element here. If someone can tell me in the chat if the sound is good, if there is no problem, in theory everything is good. And by the way, I had an issue like 2 days ago with the live stream. My mic just decided to turn off. If it happens, just write it down in the chat and I will fix this. So here, what do we have? First, you have on the bottom left few links, so to the tutorials in English, release note, documentation, the Behance page of the products if you want to see the artworks of the community, feature request. If you have some, you can use this form. Also, in the center you have here, you can have a small in-app tool to discover the application, but as we are going to discover it together, this won't be necessary for this time. Here you have the recent scenes, the latest ones. And finally, you have two buttons, create new and open. Well, they are self-explanative. If I do open, it will open my Windows Explorer, so I can choose a scene and create new. That's what we're going to do. Also, if for some reason you want to change the language, you can go into File, Edit, Preference, and here you can change the language. As you can see, there is quite a few. You have also other option here. You can set up the shortcuts. As you can see by default, I use Alt to control the camera. We will see this later. We can see also some stuff for the autosave, etc. Where are they saved, etc., etc. Here you can choose also between the light, or if you are like a bat like me, you prefer dark. And if, depending on the size of the screen and the way you want to work, you can choose a UI which will be, let's say, comfortable, or condense, which pack a bit more the UI elements. In my case, I have a big screen, so let's go with comfortable. Okay, let's click OK, and we are going to create a new scene right now. Once again, so it asked me, as I had a scene open, if I want to save or don't save. I won't save in that case, it was just to play. And I will have a new fresh interface. I'm just going to put this to off, so it may be like yours. So the first thing you see, the most obvious one is the viewport, the 3D viewport in the middle, where you can navigate. We are going to see place object. I'm not explaining the navigation right now, I'm going to do it after, but you see you can, that's where you are going to work. We like a thing that you have to retain first is we do like to present Substance 3D Stager as a place where you are going to assemble your scene, to do the staging and the final rendering, of course. This is quite important because you are not going to model object in here. That's not where you are going to texture object, at least precisely. You can apply materials on object, but that's really where it's a bit your virtual studio, photo studio, where you are going to build your scene, choose the camera setting, the composition, etc. Just gonna make before to continue a small settings on my camera. Let me check bottom left, because I have the feeling that the camera, yeah, okay. I applied that because it was changes the color all the way. Is the white balance, which was automatic for some reason. Okay, so the viewport, that's where you are going to assemble your scene and choose the composition and make your render. Now let's start from the left. The first thing you see on the left is a toolbar. So if you are used to Photoshop or Illustrator or Substance 3D Painter, you know that we like to put the main tool on the left. So you can choose them by clicking on them. If you want to see the shortcut, you just wait a second and it will be visible. For example, to select object is V. And also for all of this, if you hold, if you maintain pressed the left button, you will see that you have more options for, and it's the case for each of these tools. At the right of this, you have the assets. So this is all the potential elements that you can use to construct your scene, which are already included within Substance 3D Stager. So it's divided in 4 sections, which are the different meshes, the basic shapes, this one, etc. The materials, we are going to review all of this, substance materials. The lightings, physical lights, environment stages, environment lights. And finally, the images here that you can use either as a background or as a texture, for example. You can choose also here, you have different libraries. So if you want, you can save some object and share even with other people. They are shared on your Creative Cloud space storage. So it's really useful. Here, for example, this is one we have. We have another one which is shared. Yeah, this one is shared with the art dev team. So this is something you can do to share different elements with the team, for example. You have a way to search. For example, if I'm here, I can say matte, and you will see that it will filter the results just below. I'm just clicking here. At the bottom, you have here a section which are the project materials. These are the materials which are used, currently used in the scene. So for example, if I'm adding whatever object, you see that by default, you will have a material which is created, and it's the one applied on matte. So it's also in the properties, we'll see that later. But what we want to retain is it's here. So, and even if I delete the object, the default material remains here. So if you want to use it, you can on another object. And also you see that there is this small element that said, okay, this is not used anywhere right now. So you can delete it in that case. So we have seen the tools, we have seen the asset. Here you have some viewport and camera tools. So this will be used to manipulate the object. You can choose the orientation, we'll see that later. You can choose to snap objects so they follow. You can choose how, whether the bounding box, the center, the pivot point. It's like in Photoshop, for example, when you want to snap, there is some constraint. Here it's the same. And the collision that we'll explain later on, it's to activate, deactivate it. And on the right, you have some other camera tool that we'll explain later on. Now, on the bottom, you see that you have a timeline. Hey, Work Fashion, hope you're well. So the timeline by default, okay, so it means that we'll be able to do some kind of animation that we'll see later on. By default, it's deactivated. We'll explain. I'm nobody. Hey, how is it going? Is I'm nobody Christopher or not? I'm not sure. Tell me who you are, because I'm seeing you a lot. We are going to continue here on the right. So timeline, we'll see that later when it's time to explain animations. On the right, you have the scene elements. So this is, on the left, these assets are the ones that you can potentially use in the scene, but which are not necessarily present. This one is going to store everything that is present on the scene. So if I'm adding matte, for example, you see that it appears here in a folder because the mesh is separated in 3 in that case. I can, and if I put this, same stuff, I can add this banana, and you see that everything that is currently used in the scene is there, and you can click on it and it will select them as well. So hope you like this wonderful composition. I'm French and oldie, so it could be me. So let's continue. So the actions, this is a contextual menu, meaning that it will adapt depending of what is selected in the scene. So once again, I like to put matte. So when I put matte, you see that this is an object, and in that case, more exactly group. And you have some actions, so you can delete it, you can duplicate it, you can group it. In that case, it's not really a group, but it's possible to put a group into a group. Why not? This, we'll see what it is. It's to snap to the ground. And this is to make a mirror of an object. Finally, on the bottom right, you have the properties. The properties is once again contextual. So if nothing is selected, for example, it's the environment. If I double click on an empty space, is the scene properties, which is quite intuitive. It's just to define what kind of measurement you want. And also the grid, you can display it from here. You have this option for the grid also here. And you see that depending on the object, you have different parts: element, object, animation, transform, object, animation. So transform is the position, rotation, scale. It's there for all the objects which are present in the scene that you can see, whether it's a mesh, a camera, a light. This will be, you have this element. These are more specific to the kind of object you are going to select. An animation, once again, for animatable object, you will have this. Okay, so we have seen the main elements of this. You also have here some hidden menu for the rendering quality in the viewport. So this is something that you can set, and we'll spend more time later on. So now let's delete that, and we are going to see how to manipulate first the camera, the viewport camera here. So I will give you the 3 main control. The magic key is Alt on your keyboard, or Command if you are on Mac. When you hold Alt, the 3 button of your mouse now allows you to navigate efficiently in the scene. So if you do Alt left click, you can do this kind of orbit in the scene like this. Like that. I'm just holding Alt and left click. If I do middle click, you are going to pan the viewport in a parallel way compared to the camera. And finally, Alt right click, you are going to zoom. In my case, I prefer to zoom to use the mouse wheel. It works the same, and I don't use the right button for this. Right click is also a contextual menu, but not using it that much, honestly. So this is to navigate. So if you are really new to 3D, I'm really inviting you to spend a bit of time to get comfortable navigating with this, because don't forget that this is the way to aim where you want to work. So if you are not comfortable with that, you will lose some time afterwards just learning stuff. So just play a bit, place an object, turn around, etc. Try to go wherever you want. You have to be comfortable navigating in 3D. Now, let's see how to place an object on a scene. So as we said, you can take one from here. You also have the option with this small plus to import object. So import to scene, you click on it. It will ask you what do you want to export, and if you do 3D model, you can browse up to your model. And as you can see, we support a lot of different formats that you can use. In our case, I'm going to keep using for all these live stream elements which are within Substance. It will be easier, except one time for logo. So if I want to, let's say I want to import matte here in the scene, there is different ways. Simplest one, you just click on it once, and oops, sorry, I'm going to do it again because it's not beautiful. Okay, so I am clicking on it once, and you see that it will place matte at the center of the scene for you, which is great. But let's say I want to place it here, so I could move it. We're going to see afterwards, but there is another way to start. You can say, I won't click on it, I will click and hold and just drag and drop. And you see that there is this small turquoise square that is going to slide on the floor on the grid. And when I release it, it will place matte here. So if I want to place another one, I can do like that. Once again, click, hold, drag and drop, and release wherever you want to have it. So that's the two most easiest way to drag an object on the scene. So let's click once. So we are going to see now that we know how to add an object. So you see it's easy. That's one of the philosophy in a Substance tool. We prefer to separate software per usage. So we make sure that they are easy to use, and intuitive, whatever you are going to do. I'm nobody. I'm still don't know who you are. I will find out. I'm going to find out. So now let's see how to manipulate object in the scene. Once again, after learning how to move within a scene, the second most important thing is maybe how to manipulate elements. So by default, you see that I have this small gizmo which appears. If you don't have it, you can just click on this button here or press V on your keyboard and you will have it. So this is called a gizmo, and you see that there is it's quite kind of funky. There is lots of information in that. You have actually, it allows you to move your asset in 3 ways. And generally in 3D, you have these 3 ways, which are the moving, like making a translation, rotation, and scale. So the translation here are the small arrows that you have here, and also the small squares between the arrows. So how does it work? If I select this, you see that the color of the arrow is changing a bit, and it means that I'm constrained in the red axis. The red axis is the x-axis here. You have it here. Blue, the axis, and green like this. If, for example, you have your asset like this a bit top, you say, oh no, I want to put it on the floor for some reason. First, you see that it snaps by default if I go, so it helps. It's thanks to this option. But also you have this option here. As I said, there is like contextual actions, and you have the one to move to ground. So it will move directly to the ground. No, so we have seen that you can move by axis, but you can move also by axis planes, which means, like, for example, the horizontal. If I want to move on both axes, you can use this one, and you will move on both axes. Same for this one. Here, I'm just like vertical and the x-axis, so x, y, etc. So really pretty useful to place an element. I'm going to click here. And also you have this magic button to move your object. And it moves, as you see, following the ground. So you say, wow, it's nice, but it's the same as that, no? Yes and no. This one is a bit smarter in a way that what it does, it follows the ground, but also whatever element which is in the scene. For example, if I bring that sphere, I'm going to move it down a bit like that. Now, if I select this and I select holding the button, it's really important when you hold to make sure that it's the right color which is changing. If I do that, for example, it's the red. So, but if I do this and moving, you see that now it will follow the surface of the object. So it's kind of cool if you need to place in a different way that you want to align your object with the surface, with another surface. It's nice. And also if it allows, for example, if you have like, let's make a small cube here. If you want to put it on top, you just have to do this. Oh, yeah, here I'm doing it here. It's funny, I have a small bug here. How to see that? Should follow. But here you see that it really helps to place them. And now I can even do that and it will snap back to the floor, to the ground. Okay, so this is for moving your object. Now if you want to do some rotation, pretty easy. You just take this, you do like that, you do like this, and I'm going to show you something. So as you can see right now, I've made a rotation and the gizmo is really aligned with the object, which may be useful in some cases. That's maybe what you want if you want to advance, but sometimes let's say I want to do rotation but following this axis, for example, it's not handy. You would have to play with multiple axes to try to guess. What you can do is to define how the gizmo is aligned, either with the object or with the world coordinate. And now I can move it here in the world coordinate. So this is really up to you. There is no good way to set it up. It's really dependent of the context. For example, for camera or light, you prefer generally to stay in context like that. Once again, I'm going to do this. So pretty good. I have that. I have a small rotation. I see I can reset that. If you want, let me see. We're going to see the scale. So as you have seen, if you do translation or rotation, you are moving one axis at a time, and it makes sense. But for the scale, you want to move all the axes at the time in order not to deform the object. So by default, this is the cube, and when you select the cube, you see that it will scale in all axes. So the proportion of the character here is preserved. If for some reason you want to do just one axis, you just hold Shift and you do it, and you can do on one axis as well. Whoa, it's a bit small right now, no? Okay, Control Z, of course, to go back to normal. I'm going to put a new map, so we start. Okay, so this is a way to manipulate the object within the viewport. If you want to be precise on your object, you can go to transform here and you have access to the numeric value. So you can move it. So if you want to really, for example, go here, but you want to adjust to the millimeters, you can do it with this. That's pretty useful for any elements which are visible in the 3D viewport. You have this. Okay. Then, as I told you at the beginning, when you hold this, you have more options. So one of them, for example, is you have this widget which by default controls everything. If you're a bit lost, just want to move, you can use this one. For example, it's just to move, this one just to rotate, just to scale. And this one, mark select, just to hold. I have to try this one. I'm not sure what it does. I try it and I didn't find anything really new doing that. So, but I will ask to the team exactly what's the difference. Another point is here, as you see, when I select the character, it selects everything, although I have 3 meshes. So if I want to select, for example, just the head, I have 2 options. Or I can double click on the head, even if I cannot move it really, because it will reselect back. This may be a bug. I have to see with the team. But what you can do is go to the group. Here you just open it, you select, and now if I move, you see that I'm just moving the head. So if for some reason you know that it's 3 parts and when you select it, it moves everything, it's because it's in a group. What you can do, if you prefer to just select mesh or sub-meshes rather than groups, you can go here, hold, and here you have the option group selected, so you just uncheck it like that. And now when you select, you see that it selects just the element. So I can select the body and it will work. Here, for example, I cannot select the arm because it doesn't. This is something that we know that it's an arm and another element, but in the mesh, it's not a sub-mesh, so not possible by default. You can use something like, let me check, never tried to form a mesh for this arm. If it works. No, it doesn't work, it's just for material. Okay. once again, the goal is not to model here. This is done in another application. Okay, now we're going to see this tool, which is called Align and Distribute, which is quite cool. Well, it allows you to align and distribute. So let's press D here. And now, before to do D, I'm just going to duplicate this guy. But first, I have just the head. So I'm going to go back here, activate again group select, selecting my object. To duplicate, I can click here, or I can do Control D. So I'm going to do 5 times. Control D, Control D, Control D, and as you cannot see here because they are one on top of the other, but here you see that I have different math. So I have 6 maths. I'm going to drag and drop to make this rectangle and select everything. And now I'm going to press D, and you see that you have this nice widget, which is a bit different because as you can see, it's composed by axis of this. So what does it mean? It means that now I can take that and drag and drop it, and it will distribute my objects respecting the distance between them, which is quite cool. And you can do it on one axis, and you can add another one, so you can do pretty interesting thing this way. If you want to do this, you can create another group and make another one, for example. Let's say I want to do something like that. So this is pretty useful, honestly. And once again, you can do lots of stuff with this. I can take this, for example. I can do Control G again to make a group, and Control D again, D again, D again, D again. And now let's see how it goes if I do this. I don't even know myself. I'm going to select everything. And as you can see, I can create an army of maths. This is cool. That's how you rule the world with maths. Once again, if you have any questions in the chat, go ahead. I'm here to help. So feel free. Anyway, if not, if you are looking this video after, just ask them in the comments and I will answer. So you have this cool army of math that is created really quickly. So I'm going to do some Control Z to delete that and have one math. Okay, so let's go back to one math. So this was Align and Distribute. Pretty useful tool to place your object. Now let me see if in I think for like this placing object, manipulating them, it's okay. So we are going to spend some time on materials. By default, I'm going to spend a long period on materials because I think it's important for your scene and to explain. So I'm assuming that you know a bit of material, but what you have to know is that substance is generally all the applications are physically based, which means that these material are meant to respect some physical behavior. So don't be scary. It just means that it will work whatever the kind of lighting that you're going to apply, as long as it's in the same kind of behavior. Most of the 3D application right now work with this and support the substance 3D format. So that's kind of a standard right now. Let me drink a bit of coffee because it's a coffee break now. So materials. So just clicking this object, I'm just selecting it. And first you can see that I have a lot of material. Some of them are not used. Why? Because as I explained, I created a lot and I deleted a lot of objects. I'm going to use this option, which is useful. Select unused and delete. So delete all the unused, and I have just one right now. Let's look at it. So to look at it, you see that if I select, I don't see it in my here. It's because right now it's the group which is selected, so I have to either click on one of the mesh here or to select it here directly. So it won't select the object but the material. What you have to know about material, let me put my face 2 seconds. Oh yeah, it works. So what you have to know about material is generally, you have to think that is how the light behaves when it hits the material. So it's either bouncing or going through. and we have to define the behavior for both of them. So if you look at the material, here you see that you have material and you have two main parts, which are base surface, which is the external part, which defines the color, etc., the one you see generally, and the interior. And we have the coat, which is something that we'll see later on. But it's important because if it's hit by the surface, we will define in the base surface the behavior to define how it's seen. It's all the opaque assets. And if the light goes through, we have to define it. And this is how you get glass. Yes, glass, for example, everything which is translucent or transparent. So we are going to see the parameters for the base surface first. The most obvious one is the base color. So that's something we used to know because our eyes see directly. You just choose a color and you apply it. But what I'm going to do now, no, I'm going to do it later on. So base color, I won't explain for a long time. This is just the color that your eyes are seeing. Then you have the roughness. The roughness is defining if your material is matte or shiny. So if it's shiny or rough. So if I put it at the bottom, you see that my object is extremely shiny. And to get right now, as I want to get the most photorealistic way, I'm going to change the rendering mode to ray tracing. This one that we see right now is real time, and it's really good and really fast and efficient. But if you want really a photorealistic quality, you will activate this, and you see that you have way more details. I do off, on, especially within this, because it really simulates the way the light is behaving in the scene and spreading. So you will have something way more precise. So doing that, I'm going to change medium, quality medium, it's fine. So here you can define the quality, the real first switch between real time or not, it's the same than that. You can define render with GPU. If you have a GPU, I highly recommend using that. We are just putting this in case you have a really weak GPU or outdated, but it's better to go with the GPU. It's way faster if you have one. And the preset is just the precision of the scene. So by default, medium is fine to get a nice preview. If for some reason you want to have a super high quality in the viewport, you can push it up. These are just presets, so it will just change this, but you can do it by hand as well. You can define the max time as well. We'll see that at the end because these are the same setting that we'll use for the final rendering. So leaving it this way for the moment, at the moment. Everything seems to be fine. I don't have any question. Once again, don't hesitate. I'm too clear. So roughness, once again, will define the way the light is spreading on the scene. So an important point in physical is your object is receiving the same amount of light. It's just the way it will be bounced. So here, for example, you see that you have this spot, this high spot, or here you can see it. If I change the roughness, important to note that you have less bypoint, but it's just spread on the surface. That's why it gives this effect. This is something that you see every day in your life, but we don't take in account. But that's why now you have this kind of nice effect. It's still believable material that you would see, but between this and this, the same amount of light is received. It's just bounced a different way. So this is to be defined by yourself. For most of the parameters, you can see you have this small plus. What it is? It's something that lets you feed with a texture, a map, an image. Why? Because here the parameter, as you can see, is uniform for all the surface. But if I want, I can import an image. So if I go here, it will be a black and white image. I think if you try a color image, it will be turned into black and white anyway. So if I take this, for example, let's use this one, or this one, noise liquid it's called, and I'm drag and dropping it directly in the roughness. You see, no, it's not the clearer. Let me take something grunge, like a grunge leather. Okay, so now you see that the roughness is affected depending on the map. You have to think of the parameter like 0, close to 0 equal black, and close to 1 equal white. So that's how it works. So in my map, all this where there is no where it is really shiny, it means that it's black in the map, and here white. So here I took it one from here, but once again, you can go here and change it here. And you can even edit in Photoshop the map if necessary. Just be careful because it may overwrite your original map, to be double checked. Roughness, so pretty clear, pretty cool. This is one of the most important aspects to get a believable object, in my opinion. You also have the metallic here. So as you see, if I put the metallic to the top, you now have something. I'm going to change the roughness to something like that. You have something pretty metallic, pretty clear. It makes sense. So many people ask me, why do we have a metallic parameter and not a plastic parameter or wood parameter, etc. This is for a physical reason, because generally we separate materials in real life in two. Either they are metallic or they are dielectric. Not metallic, we can say, but it's called dielectric. And they have a difference, is that almost every dielectric material is going to absorb a bit of the light. I'm not talking about crystal, which of course absorb a lot, but even plastic, like if I take, I don't know, this, my coffee, this is ceramic, but still, it will absorb a fraction of the light before to reflecting. It's not the case for the metal. They don't absorb anything. That's why, for example, if you take an aluminium foil and put it on the sun, sorry for the microphone, there is no light which will pass, and this has to be taken in account when creating a material. That's why we have this metallic parameter. So generally, in theory, the value is either 0 or 1. Except if, for example, for some materials like nacre, I'm not sure how to say that, I think nacre or something like that, or if, for example, you want to represent dust on top of metal. So of course the dust is not metal, but you see through. So it's for this you will use a value between both, but this is really exceptional. Generally, just think that it's either metallic or not. Opacity. It's quite clear. If I put it to 0, my object will disappear. This is not physically correct, of course. So if you want to do transparency like crystal, that's not what we recommend. But if, for example, you want to make like a fabric and there is some small hole, this is not something that you are going to put in the mesh, because it would make a mesh that would be too heavy. So if you want to simulate this hole, you can use an opacity map that will simulate that. To give you an idea, for example, once again, I'm going to use a map here. So let's use this one, for example, this pattern organic. I'm going to drag it in the opacity, and it makes it clear. So depending on what you want, it can be fun to do something like that, of course. But yes, it's really up to you. For fabric, it can be really used, or really thin stuff when there is hole. Instead of making this within the mesh, you can make it, simulate it with an opacity map. Okay, so metallic, opacity, ambient occlusion. This is how an object will self-shadow itself. So by default, you have it in. Not really visible here. You can add an additional map. This is something that generally, if you have a good rendering engine like this one, you don't need it by default, because the ambient occlusion will be calculated, but that sometimes you have to approximate it, or if you want to add even more self-occlusion, you can use this. Specular level will define the way this specular will behave. So it works a bit with roughness, but it gives something different. You can choose the intensity of the reflection, like this. And also, so by default 0.5. And also you can choose the color, so it's really for specific material. Let's put something really visible. So now you see that the specular color is different for your object. So this is something you may want to adjust depending of your case to give some interesting material. Put it back to like that. So these are the base parameters that we have. Now you have some other ones like the normal map. So a normal map is a specific map. I don't have one here right now, but this is going to hold to fake some relief on your object. So pretty useful. This is something that you can create in Substance 3D Painter. If you export your object for Substance 3D Painter, you actually have a button into the Substance 3D Painter which allows you to directly send to Stager. So this will simulate a relief on your object. I really have to prepare one somehow. You can combine with you can define the scale of this map in case, and also combine with the height map which is below. So while this one is going to fake some deformation or relief detail on your asset, the height map is able to really deform your object. So we are going to see that now. So if I change that now, you see that nothing is happening. First, because there is no map, but even if I put a map, so let's put once again this one, I like it. It's not doing anything. I don't have the control here, of course, because it's controlled by the map. But if I change the scale, you see that nothing happened. Why? Because first, there is two ways to really make it useful. Either you combine it with a normal map, with this, or you can go in the object parameter. So you go at the top of this. So I'm going to select the object, like the head here, and go to the object. And here I have two parameters, collision parameter that we are going to see later on, and displacement. And this is what is interesting us right now. Displacement is going to displace the mesh based on the map, on the height map. So if I do this and wait a bit, and my PC is going to turn it, yeah, the heat are going to turn it on because it's kind of processing heavy. You see that it deforms the mesh depending on the map. By default, it's not precise because it's using the actual mesh triangles topology. So if you need more precision, you can ramp that up, like 12, for example, and you will see that it will subdivide the faces so it's more precise. And in order to control now the displacement intensity, you can go back to the material, here, go to height, and here you have the scale and the lever. So if I change the scale to something lower, like 0.33, maybe a bit more, oh no, it's fine. You see that it's lower. And you can also adjust the lever. So it's just the scope, where it starts from and up to which point it goes. So if I go low, it will diminish the intensity here. I have to see with the team. I think they made it upside down compared to Painter. But you see, it allows you to make like some cool effect if you have the right map. So I'm going to remove it. Really important, if I don't use it, to deactivate the displacement. And as you can see, there is a small bug that I'm going to set to the team. It seems that you cannot deactivate it if there is no map, and as I just removed it, yeah, this is a quite fresh program. It's 2 years old. Now I can deactivate it. The team is quite reactive, so it will be fixed soon. So we have maps. I'm going to double click to go to the material. Going down, we have seen the height map. We have seen the normal map to add some more details. Now let's see the anisotropy. Anisotropy, what it is, we are going to learn a lot of words today. So this is a way to control the specular of your object, to make sure that it it spreads more in an axis rather than the other. If you go, for example, in a bar, you know that there is this kind of table with in aluminium with this circle, and you see the light which is sprayed in a circular way. Well, that's called anisotropy. So if I do it here, you are going to understand directly. You see that now the light is spread on an axis more than the other. This is called anisotropy. And you can choose the angle as well, like that. You can use some map, and it's using the gradient. So it will compare the gradient, the points, and for example, it will try to go from darker to lighter, if I'm not wrong, or the other way, the way around. Anyway, that's how you can have a really cool one. So here you see I can control and get something which could be aluminium if I change the color, etc. So yeah, it gives some direction to the specular. So let's put this to 0 again, like that. Emission, this one is kind of self-explanative, we can say. Actually, as we say, most of the objects are receiving light and then deciding if it's if the light bounces or goes in the object. There is also another kind of object that emit light, like a lamp, for example, a light bulb, etc. They do emit light, and you can define it within the material. So, for example, if I push up the emission intensity, you see on the floor that it starts growing out. So, what I'm going to do to make it clear, I'm going really quick to go in the environment and the light setting and disable the default light. So right now in this scene there is no light. I'm going to put it black, and I'm going to remove the grid. So if I play right now with the object, double click on it, I put the intensity to 0. Well, you don't see anything. Like matte is a lamp right now, and if I put another object on the side like this, you see that this is matte, which is lighting. That's it. And you can go here, you can change the color of the lighting. So of course, making it on your main character does not make any sense, but if you want to simulate neon tube or stuff like this, that's how you would do. And as you can see, it works pretty well. So let's go back, let's switch it off. Let's go to the environment, light, turn it on, and change the background to whatever color, something like that, for example. Please note that the background color does not change the lighting, it's just a color. It will, and it's the ground which holds the shadows, but it's a plain color. We'll see that later on. Normal map edition, and you have the sheen aspect. So sheen is something, a kind of Fresnel specular, which that you see a lot in fabrics, for example. So if I push this, you will see that it kind of creates this kind of layer around the object on the border. That's something that generally the close fiber like cotton has, and it's quite hard to replicate. So you can use this and push it up, like, and put it to the top like that. So once again, with fabric, it works pretty well. You can choose the color for this. That's something more fancy, and it will be once again on the border. It's like a Fresnel effect that you would add to your object. And you can choose also the roughness of it. So is it the more rough, the more it will spread on the object. You'll see that it will spread up to here. It will fade, but in a longer way. If I do roughness like that, you will see that it will be more concentrated on the border. Okay, so we have seen the surface of the object, which is great. What now if we want to do an object which is transparent? And I'm not talking about transparent opacity like that, which is not realistic for a real transparent object. I'm talking about transparent like glasses. So you would use the translucency parameters. So the more I move this one, the more the light is going within my object. it's called translucency, but I'd like to say how much the surface is going to retain light. Okay, it still retains a lot, but if I put it to the maximum, well, the external surface does not retain anything. The only information that are preserved externally are the one from the roughness, for example, which are still visible. The other one, they are not there anymore. Which makes it cool, because it means that now I have like kind of glass. If you do this, you are going to see that your GPU is going to be excited a bit, because it means that for each rays that goes inside, we have to recalculate the path of the light to make it realistic. I'm going to give some more details. But now, with the translucency, you can define that. So if you want to see a bit the external surface, you can do it like this. But if you want to tint within the object, you can. You just choose the absorption color. So this is a color that is defined like this. When the light entering, it will absorb a color, which is the absorption color. So the more it will go through the object, the more it will absorb this color up to the point defined by the absorption distance. So here, Matt, if we go quickly here to the transform, you see that it's like 8 centimeter width, so let's say 6 centimeters, something like that for the head. So we're going to see that. So now, if I look at the parameter, the absorption distance, 0 means infinite. But if I put 0.0 something, it means that the more it goes in, after, well, in that case, like 1 millimeter, or something like that, it will be at the top of this color, and yet it will continue to absorb up to a point. If you see on the bottom, it's almost black, because the light cannot pass anymore. It has absorbed that much that you have this effect. So if I move up, right now you see that now you define the maximum absorption distance. So 3.2, you see that now it's lighter because it will be at the maximum after 3 centimeters. So it will continue and darken, etc. But once again, depending on what you define here, the higher, the lighter it will be, and you can have some cool effects. What you have to define as well is the index of refraction. So I won't do too much physics, but this is a physical property of any material which defines how the light is distorted when it enters within the object. So just Google it. So if you know that, okay, I want to replicate plastic, for example, just Google it or chat GPT it and ask what is the index of refraction of plastic. Oh, okay, it's 1.5 generally. What is for water? It's 1.3. For diamonds, it's even more. It's 2 point something, if I'm not wrong. So it will really distort, and that's how you are going to mimic the way the light is refracted by an object. Don't invent it, just Google it. It will be easier. And you can choose also the dispersion. So by default, here it's a rendering engine, and it takes white lights. But as you may know, by default, white light in our real world is composed of multiple colors that combine gives white. So if you want to separate it, because when these colors enter into the object, they may deviate a bit in a different way. So you can simulate this with the dispersion. If I put that, let me put this, for example. Now, if I move the dispersion, not that visible on that case, but we can see that the green, blue, and other rays, it really tries to mimic the color of the rays to give something even more believable. It's subtle, but it brings a bit more believability to your scene. So this one is cool. It allows you, once again, to work with the translucency. In that case, the roughness to pure transparent. So by default, here when you do this, the rays are deviated, but they are keeping one ray. they try. They are quite direct. But it's not always the case in object. If you think about object like skin, paraffin, I don't know how to say, gum, stuff like that, some plastic, rubber. When the light is trying to enter, it's directly spread within the object, and that gives this kind of waxy effect. So this is called subsurface scattering. And if you just play with this stuff, you won't be able to mimic it properly. You have to activate what is called subsurface scattering, and you are going to understand directly. It will give this kind of waxy, milky effect. Once again, it's what we define is, okay, once you hit the surface and go within the object, this is going to spread. So you can define a different color for the spreading. You can say, okay, it will spread and change color. So if I put red, for example, the blue is still there, but it's like replaced by the red, which is too strong because it happens rapidly. And you have a scattering distance. Once again, it will be, okay, within which distance this scattering will occur. So if I put, for example, a longer distance, it means that the scattering will start at the beginning, but go in, and go in. Generally, in an object, it's a really low distance. If I put it at 0, it's almost instant, so it doesn't go within the object. So you just want to put like a few millimeters, and here you are starting to get something that looks like, some waxy plastic. If I change right now, for example, the roughness to something like that, you would see like a glossy plastic. I can change the color, make it lighter as well, or stronger. You can play with that. And this is more, it's processing GPU-wise, because once again, for one ray, we spread it in multiple rays to get this effect. Okay, but it's pretty cool. It gives really interesting effects when you did it. And by the way, many objects get this, and sometimes there is something, if it looks too plastic, or this may be due to this because it doesn't have subsurface scattering. So I'm going to put like just another color to show you something cool, like this color, for example. If you are doing some skin, for example, you can okay, just let me check. Yes, you can choose a distance scale. Here it's a color. You can control this distance scale with a color. I invite you to do it with an image, and this is used because there are some objects like the body, for example, where there is part where it's going to scatter in a long distance, and other where it will stop directly because there is a bone. For example, if you take my nose right now, this part with the going to put my face like that. This part, for example, there is a bone here, so the scattering distance will be extremely short. But here in this part, there is no bones, and that's why sometimes you have this reddish stuff, because the scattering distance is more important. So with this map here, you can define that as well. Once again, this is a map that you may want to do within a Substance 3D Painter and then import it, but still you have this option. And also, you have two, if it's the case you want to simulate skin, you have this redshift and Rayleigh scattering, which allows you to give a more physically correct effect. For example, this redshift is really useful for skin because the red color is going to navigate longer in a longer distance. So this is a way to control that. And also, so for skin, it works super well, and Rayleigh scattering, same thing. It will make some rays navigate longer. In that case, I think it's the orange one. So you can put it, especially if it's organic stuff, that will help a bit. The difference is not huge, but still, you won't take any risk having that. Okay, so we did that. I'm going to deactivate it right now. We have the volume one, but I'm not sure what it does. Oh, okay, this is the thickness. So once again, it's to define the thickness within the body unaffected. this is something that works well with a map to see through the object. So here, for example, I think we can affect that. But this is better with the map because it has to be different for any element. Here, it would just use the real thickness of the object. Okay, so let me deactivate the translucency right now and get back to matte. And we are going to see the ultimate point of this material, which is the coating. Before we continue, this, as I said, it's called physically based material. We define all of this in something called ASM, which is Adobe Surface Specification Material or something like this. I'm not even sure. These are just specification about the behavior of our material. So if other application wants to use it, they can be based on that, and we keep the consistency. We worked a lot with other companies to make sure that substance material works the same way anywhere. So coating right now, what is it? If you work in automotive, you know that sometimes we put a coating on top of this, of the paint. That's what it is, coating. So if I activate it, go opacity, you see that now I have another specular. So it allows you to mimic like this kind of coating that you would put on top of another material, so you can have a double specular. For this one, I can define once again a color. Let's put something like this, maybe here, so we get that. So it will be put on top. You can mix them all together, and it will mix these two and get some super interesting stuff. Once again, you have a specific roughness for this one. You can define an index of refraction, so it will affect also the way the light and the specular is bouncing on it. So if you are modeling an object that is supposed to be coated afterwards, you can use that. You can change the specular. So it's as if you would add a second specular. You can even add a specific normal to it. So we have seen everything related to material. This was a bit long, but I think necessary. Something that you can also do, so this was the specification, but at the top, you can define the way the material is applied on your object. So to explain this, real quick, I'm going to take this ceramic material and drag and drop it on the head. So first, I don't think I explained, but if I drag and drop, it will directly apply on the submesh. If I select my object like this and I click, it will apply on everything. And if you go to the object, you can select by default. If I change, it will change everything. For example, change the color to green. It changes everything. Fine. If you just want to have a unique material for the head, for example, you go at the top, and here you have the option to unlink the material. And now this one is unique, and you see that in the project material you have two materials. So if I change the color again here, now it's just for the head. So I'm going to go back to my material. So I'm just click on this one to reapply and everything. Oh, interesting. Well, it goes. If I do this, it doesn't work by default. Interesting. Okay, so I'm going to do another way. Well, I'm going to show you another way. So I'm going to drag and drop it here like that. And now let's say I want to apply this one on this one. I can select this part, double click. And now I'm going to use this sampler and click on the material I want to apply here. Selecting this, I press I to go with the sampler. Oops, sorry, the way around, like that. And now this is the material for everyone. Once again, there is just one. Let's do some cleaning here, like that. Also, something that you can do if you, as you see, I am applying material by mesh or submesh. What you can do as well, is, let's say I want to apply a specific material just on this part. I can use the magic one, select this, and you see that it tries to select just this part. And now, if I click on the material, it will apply just here. So just to be clear, this is not a texturing application. So if you have to do like some to apply on specific zone like this, and this is like really obvious zone, it will work well. If you have to do a really precise texturing, it's you have to go to Substance 3D Painter. That's really the application which is made for this. And in the future, close future, I will make the same introduction for this one. So Control Z, and I think we saw more or less everything for material. Oops, sorry. Yes, we saw the material, we saw how to apply it. Oh yes, I wanted to show you this, sorry. So let's going back here, and you have some different ways to project the material. So by default, it's by UV, which means that it will follow the UVs which has been defined for the object. This is 2D coordinates, and it will just apply on these 2D coordinates, and depending on how it goes, it works well, like in front, and sometimes it's a bit different. It really depends how it has been made by the artist who made this. If there is no UVs on your object, it will propose you to create some within sampler, within Stager, sorry, when you import your object. You have also one which is projection, and then triplanar local. So it will look at the local coordinate of your asset, and it will project. It's called triplanar because following the 3 axes, the 3 planes of the object, it will project in X, in Y, and in Z. So you have here, here, and here. So in most of organic objects, it works pretty well. Sometimes when it's something really round and precise like that, you can see the stuff. You can try to adjust it with the blending, like getting something like that, for example. Still, you may have, once again, that it's really to apply in a generic way. If you want to make a precise one, Substance 3D Painter. Then that said, you can also change the repetition here. By default, the X and Y axes are connected. If you want to disconnect, just here, and change just on one axis. Brilliant. You once again. And you can change the offset as well. Left, right, up, down, and the rotation. Rotation of your material. So there is different ways. So this is the way you of controlling how your material is applied on the model. Okay, so material, we are done. We have seen a lot of stuff. Now I'm going to show you how to control the camera. We have seen that we have these 3 buttons here, which is fine. So that says Alt, left click, middle click, and right click, but we have way more control. So let's say I have a scene. I'm going to create just a scene with matte like that. And I like this camera, for example. This is what I want to do at the end, for example. So rather to stay in the viewport camera, which is like a working place, you can create a camera by just clicking on this plus button here. And it will create a new camera, which is accessible here in this menu, but also which is a real object in the scene. So right now I'm seeing through because I have this small dot. But if I go to the viewport camera here and I go back, you see that this is now a real object. So if I want to go back to this view, I can either select it here or click on this small button here and get it this way. So the cool thing is that I can go here. If you really like it, you don't want to move it. So if you move it by mistake, you can Control Z won't work because Control Z controls the action of the meshes and the scene, but you have a Control Z here. So you can do just this way and it will go back. And what I'm inviting you to do, if you like the frame, the framing and everything, is to lock it like that. So now I cannot move it. No, I didn't move the camera, I moved the object. So same thing, I can lock the object, by the way. You can lock almost any object which are in the scene. So right now we're going to unlock it just to work with it. If you like, you want to make another one, for example, let's say, okay, I have this one, I can create a new one. F is focus. I didn't show, but if you press F, it will refocus your object. So if I do this, for example, like that, now I have 2 cameras. I have one here and one there. So this is a really good way to control everything. Now, as we say, Alt, left, middle, right click, but there is more options. So if you do on your keyboard, you have all the numerical keys at the top, not the one at the right, the one at the top. Let me check on at the right, it doesn't work, yes. But the one at the top lets you pick the way to control the camera. So if you do 1, it will be like as if you do Alt, left click. So if you do 2, like middle left click, 3, it's the zoom, so nothing new here. But if you do 4, it starts to be interesting. 4, it lets you move the camera. I'm going to place another object so you can understand better way. Let's do V. I'm going to move that here, for example, and let's put this cone there. Okay. So we have more objects. So now, if I move the camera with 4, it's as if I am holding the camera with my hand and moving my head. I can choose up, down, etc. That's how it works. Then you have 5, which lets you make some rotation. So if you want to give like a specific aspect like that, you do up, down, and it will do this rotation. You have 6, which is an interesting one that we'll see later. It lets you change the let me check how it's called exactly in English, the focal length. So this is a photographic term. You can change it by selecting the camera or by using 6, which changes the focal length. And there is another one, which is called 7, which is one of the most interesting because it will change both the focal length and the camera distance in order to keep the selected object like this one. It gives the feeling that it's at the same distance, but the perspective is changing. So I'm going to put a sphere in front of here, so we get more this aspect like that. It's a bit big, like that. And now you see that it gives this kind of feeling of distance. So this was an effect created by Hitchcock, you know that. So this is kind of cool. So this is all the control you can have for the camera. This is quite great. Now, as we are placing object, I'm going to show you some stuff. We have seen how to manipulate object, but I'd like to show you another way, which is with collision, which is a great one. So first, let me go, I press V to select the object like this, and let's take this crystal. So I'm going to press 1 to get 1 crystal. By default, it's a bit big, so I'm resizing it. And I'm going to do Control D, like this, like a few times, so I have like 7 crystals, something like that. I'm going to select them, I'm going to press D, and I'm going to make them like that. If I'd like to place them in a believable way, I could do that. I can select, I go V again, select this one, and I can select this, but if I want to hold on another face, it's not easy. I would have to take this to make like a rotation, and maybe like that. It's not super handy. Luckily, we have a way to do it in another way. So if I select these crystals, I can, here you see that you can lock the object, you can make it visible, and you have this which lets you activate, deactivate the collision. So if I select this, I can press C. Okay, I have to do it here. And now the collision is activated here. You see that you have this small icon. And when you do this, when you activate for 1, you see that it activates also at the level of the scene. So now, if I move the object, you see that it doesn't go follow, it respects the ground. So this is way easier to manipulate my asset. This, here I can. So this is nice, but what is even better is that, let's put it up right now. I'm going to put it here, and I'm selecting one by one the other one. So let's start from here. I'm going to activate for each of these crystals. Good, yeah. And I'm going to select them all. And now, if I go down, you will see that it will respect the physics to each other, because they all have physics. So in order to work, they have to both have physics. The ground is always, it will always work with the ground. But with the, for example, if I move this one here, I can move it, but it will go through matte, because matte doesn't have any physics defined. If I define it for matte here, by the way, I can select tool asset. Now if I take this, it will respect matte and put it itself on top of that. So that's an easy way to create a material like that and to place material. And once again, if I go, it will try to give something. So really quickly, I can move that and the way I want. So if I put it here, for example, and go down, check here, let's put it down. Okay, I like that. I can select that and just selecting a material like this one. I'm going within the material, try to change the color. I think it shouldn't work because it must be absorption color, but by the way, okay, yes, I have it here. So it's a bit reddish. Greenish, sorry, I'm going to change the distance. Okay. So you see, kind of easy. This is really cool, the collision placement, because you don't have to spend 1 hour just placing the object. I'm going to deactivate it right now because it makes my processor works a lot, my GPU. Now that we have seen, okay, we have seen how to move object, how to apply and set up materials, how to play with the camera. Now let's see the lighting and environment. First, I'm going to go back 2 seconds on my camera. On my crystal, I'm going to put them and do Ctrl G, put them in a group. I like to rename. Let's go back to this camera and see a bit what we have. So here I have, of course, the transform, and I have the, oh, sorry. I have the transform, the object animation, of course. First, you have the size. So here you can define the size of your render. You see that it moves here. You can also do it by, when the camera is selected, by control clicking on the border here and just resize this way. Something like that. And I'm going to reframe it, just this button when it's stand up. So this is a good way to do. You can do it. You see that now the size has changed. You can define a background with an image, and we are going to see that in a second. You can change the focal length from here, and you can activate the depth of field. This is only visible if you are in ray tracing mode. So if I do this, you know that you see that now there is some elements which are visible and some other which are not. Let me add an object here. Big. Okay. So you see that depending on the distance and the focus point, you have this depth of field. So you can set the focus point here, click on here or there, and it will define what is in the focus and what is not. And you can also define the blur amount. Here, for example, it's way too strong. So if I want to do something like that, 3 would give something more interesting. And if I'm not wrong, the cool thing is when you define the focus point, you can then change the camera distance. The focus point is the same, it will be here. So it will add that, it will stick to the 3D coordinate of the scene. Now, as we have seen, we can also import it as an image at the background. Right now it's a gray color that is defining the environment, but if I select the camera, you can select a background per camera. So to do this, you choose an image. So here we have some, and you just drag and drop it, or here on the background, or I think you can just even click on it. So if I do, let's take this one, for example, and by default, it will import this as a background. As you can see, it does not work by default because it's not aligned, etc. But the cool thing is you have a button which is called Match Image that you can click on like that. And what it will propose you, it will say, okay, I can set the camera output size to fit with the image. I can create lights that will fit with the background. And finally, I can try to match the camera perspective. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Edith. Surprised that no one told me sooner. So what I did, sorry, I'm going to do it again. So first I show how to activate the depth of field here, set the focus point here or here, and to define the amount for the focus point. And now what I showed is how to import an image in the background. So to do this, you just either click on it or you can drag and drop it. So if you drag and drop it, as I say, it works, but as you can see, I'm going to put it like that, it's not aligned. But you have this match image button just here. So it lets you choose the image aspect ratio to fit the background, to create lights according to the background, and to match the perspective. So let's click on it and you will understand. So now it will try to match everything. So it works, the perspective is good. Now what is not is that I have to take this and move it a bit here, and I'm going to make it smaller, and I'm going to deactivate, oops, sorry, this, deactivate in my camera the depth of field because it's not necessary. Oops, sorry. I'm going to take this matte and put it a bit more in front and make it smaller, like that. But as you can see, it has created a light that fits with the environment. You can still move the light, it's a shift right click to make it even closer to what you want. And this is a pretty cool way to fit an environment with your maps. If I take this, for example, this one, I will create once again, select the camera and do match image. I tell you at the beginning, it happens once, sometimes. You got the sound edit right now? I think yes, we have like 9 seconds of, but you should have this now. Yeah. Sorry about that, stager make me cut my sound. I don't know why, I have to find why. Okay, let's stop technical issues, especially when they are my fault. So yeah, as I said, right now, as the object are on the floor, you need a ground. But if it's something that would be floating in the air, for example, you would remove the ground. And it will also save in performance. So let's put it back. I have the reflection, and you have some cool stuff. First, you can define the shadow opacity, if you want less or more. That's the first one. To shift right click so we see the shadow. Most interesting, you can define the reflection opacity. So if I do this, you can see that I can make like a full mirror if I want. Of course, it's not super realistic. I can diminish that, and you can define the roughness. So, but if it's at 0, it's a pure mirror. But if I start to move it on the right, you can see that I can have something pretty interesting really quickly. Have visual bug as well. Open and close. Yeah, that's interesting. I have this. Okay, I have this which has been stuck. We're going to live with that. So yes, with this, with the ground, you can define: is it visible? The opacity. That's something that you will set up generally once you have set up the scene, the light, the background. You will fine tune this. Then you have the background. So background is the color that you have behind. So for example, if I want something that recall matte, I can take one, but you can define whatever color. Once again, it's either this color or you define for a camera, you define an image in the background directly that will cover this. So for example, once again, I can select this, match image, okay, and now it fits the image. But as you see right now, the reflection is too strong compared to the floor. That's in that case that I will go to brown and diminish I will move up the roughness a bit. So it's not like a mirror. The only thing that you have to think about is the lighting is general, so it's not per camera. So if you define a lighting for a camera, watch out if you move to another camera, because it's really, you will have to make a setup per camera. This is something that we should improve in the future, by the way. So back to environment, then you have the background. We have seen this. Either you have this color, either you have a background image, or if you prefer, you can put the HDR map, the map which is lighting the scene right now. So this one has been generated by the match image, but I can go here in the lighting here and choose one environment light. So if I take this one, for example, I will put it, and that's what will lead the scene. So it's blurred by default because you can change that and go to background here. And you can see, no, I don't want it to be blurred, but generally, except in few cases, it's not really usable by default. So it's either to keep the blur or to hide it completely. Like that. Finally, the lights. So that's what is interesting us. So as we said, you can define by clicking here, and you see that it will change the environment light. You have a sun here. The sunlight is created when you do the match image, for example, and you have some cool parameter for the sunlight. So you can define, the shadow here, so you can see. You can define first a color. If you want a specific one, you can put like a reddish. This is one parameter. I don't know why it's not done. Yes, you can see it here. And you can define the size and the cloudiness. So the more cloudy, the more blurry it will be. So this is a way to work. I'm going to put like another color in the background so you can see better. You can, so let's delete it for now. You have this environment. If I remove it, you don't see anything. I can choose one from here. What I'd like to do generally also is you can build your own light setup, either by using physical light, which are objects. So if I take one, the best way to do it is to drag and drop it and to try to, by default, it will try to conform to a normal map. So if you want this way, you put it here, and now you put with the distance, but at least it will make here. But generally I'm using it at the end. What I'm doing first is, for example, let's delete and delete. What I like to do is going environment, lights, I will use the time, and I'm going to deactivate it so we don't see anything. And from here I can create like environment light. So let's create one, so it's placed randomly. But what I like with this is first you always have this kind of settings like intensity, like that, strong or weak. You can define the color. I will hire you as an assistant for my live stream. But I have to find why it's disconnected like that. This is a good microphone, and I don't have any idea. So yeah, you can define the height, and for the second light, I'm going just to change the size a bit, so it makes it wider, but losing a bit the intensity. And finally, I'm going to add one that will go on the side here, which would be really almost behind. So next one. Here plus like 3, so it's key light, fill light, and it will be my rim light. Once again, I'm going to try to put it here, and as I cannot go behind, I could either use I am in the viewport camera, so I'm going to create one camera, and now I'm going to go to the viewport camera and go behind and say I want the light 3, I want it there. So now if I go to my camera, it's way behind. Anyway, I can still adjust. I can go here and adjust by hand the rotation. Okay, so now it's really how I want the camera. So the light, sorry. So this is where you play with camera. What you can do is use this one as well, which are useful. That's a good way to do. But what I like, as I said, is to make the general one, and then if I really want to put the focus on something, like let's say I want matte to be really to emphasize, what I do is I'm doing it another way. Before we continue, we are going to see animation, and hoping that I'm going to cut ray tracing, because this way, you see, if I don't use ray tracing, all the reflection are not that good, but that's okay, because they're supposed to be like this at the end. We're going to see animation. Animation, super easy to do. We implemented it like a few months ago. It's really fresh, and we wanted to make simple. So any element of the scene can have animation. So if I select this, for example, well, you know what? Let's click this one. I know you're here editing. If my microphone cuts, you tell. Let's go to animation, and you see that you have two kinds of animation. You have orbit, which is, if you look at this GIF, it will orbit around a point. And then you have spin, which is the object turning on itself, on its own pivot point. So in my case, what I'm going to do is first I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to say, okay, let's spin. And if you look at the timeline right now, I cannot touch it. Now the timeline is active, and if I do press play, you have your animation. It's as you can see, it's looping. Just checking, yeah, it's working. I'm just afraid with the microphone, but yes, it's working. So let's stop. If you do pause, you are going to see that the UI is not accessible. It has to be at 0, so you can either do stop or press here, and then you can go back to the material. So it's pretty straightforward. You can choose for the spinning the target offset, so how it will rotate. By default, it's on the own axis. You can choose the duration, so let's put 6, for example. It will be slower, of course. And you can do it reverse, so it will go the other way. You can choose also different kind of rotation. So if I do this right now, you see the whoa, you do it this way. No, so it's cool. I'm going to put it back to linear, and I'm going to deactivate it for now. You also have the rotation, the orbit rotation. So if you want to do it, for example, for a camera, I activate it, and I'm you have first to select this a target. If you don't, it will take the 0 point of the scene. So I'm going to select matte. I'm going to put the head, because that's what I selected. You can offset it a bit. I can put 2. I think I have to move it a bit. Okay, so it's -2. Sorry, -2. So a small bucket. You have to move it to, yeah. Okay, so right now, 3 seconds, it works. what you can do, which is cool, if you want to select, for example, I'm going to hide the other object, like the crystal and the vase. If I want to simulate the lighting to move, you cannot animate the environment mask, but what you can do is animate both the cameras. So I'm going to put 6 seconds, like matte. And now I'm going to go back to matte, and this is 6 seconds I'm going to activate. So, not this one, sorry. Speed. So 6 seconds, 6 seconds. So they are going to move at the same time. So matte is always going to face the camera because they are ready. And now it gives the feeling that it's the light which is moving and not the object. Meanwhile, it's the object on the camera. So this is a nice trick. Nice. So now let's take this. Let's deactivate spinning here. Let's deactivate for the camera. Which quickly make a scene right now. Make the final and see the render. So I'm just move it up a bit. I'm going to put like that. This. Put myself in local. Lighting is quite cool. There is like a pretty intense one here. Maybe not like that. Let's create some object. Here I have some primitives. So I'm going to create some sphere. Going to the viewport camera to create them. So I can see from top. I'm going to create one here, one here, one here. Here, super easy. You can go to the properties to adjust. Let's see that. I want to give the feeling that it's floating. So I'm going to first move a bit. Oops, sorry. I'm going to select Ctrl V here. I'm going to put one here, one there, this one. It's okay. And this one is almost invisible. We're going to move it a bit. Okay. So let's say I like that. This one to turn around. You see that the camera is rotating almost around the object you are selecting. So I'm going to take matte, press F. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to press 7. First, I'm going to create a new camera, camera 3. I'm going to press 7 to play with this like that. I'm going to press V to make a small rotation on these guys like that. Say I love this scene, for example. We are going to go to the camera. First, I'm going to take this and add a new material, subsurface 1, because I like this effect, and I'm going to give a color. Double click, I have the material here, and in the colors, I'm going to go to the absorption color, put like green, like that, maybe in the subsurface. If I go, I'm going to put another color. Okay. Oops. Something like that. Why not? I'm just recreating the scene from the beginning with everything that we have learned from now. And now let's play with this one. So let's take a glass for this one. And once again, I want to keep the theme. I'm just taking this color. But as it's a glass, this one doesn't do anything. I have to go back. In the absorption color, first I'm going to change the distance. And okay, this should be better. And I'm going to change the distance to get something lighter. Here, let's put a clay. I'm going to pick a color here that I like. Let's use a natural leather for this one, for example. And once again, let's be consistent. Why not use this one? And for this one, like satin, you get the idea. This one, as it's a substance material, you see that there is 2 parameters. This one, and finally this one, which is hidden in the back. Let's put this kind of marble, and once again color. Why not? And finally the background. I'm going to do two things. First, I'm going to deactivate the ground. That's so it's really floating in the air. I'm going to go to the background and pick a color. So once again, I'm going to pick this one, but change almost dark. I'm going to take this. Just change the position so viewport few seconds. I'm going to put this way. Let's go back to the camera, clicking here. And while I'm in the camera, activating depth of field, selecting the focus point here, and lowering the value. Maybe 7 to play with this a bit. And once again, something like that, maybe 2 should be fine. For the lighting, I'm just going to add a physical light. There is one light that I don't like. I have to find it because it's too obvious, this one. So lights here, and this one is hidden. So it's okay, this one is too strong. So let's put like this, and here I'm going to put a light just specifically for matte. Here in the lighting here, physical light, I'm going to choose, let's choose a spotlight, no area light, they are more physically predictable. I like that. I'm going to go back once again to Viewport, trying to see how it goes. I'm going to put in local, try to put it this way, so getting back here. Okay, so I like the way it is. What I'm going to do to make sure to get the emphasis on matte, it has its own lights. I'm going to go back to environment, and here I have global lighting, so I can darken the global intensity, so it will recalculate all the maps. Wait a bit. Takes a few seconds generally. Okay, and I'm going to go back to this slide and move up the intensity. So let's say I'm happy with this. It's now time to make the render. So render, it's here. Here it's really design. It's where you are going to do your staging, composition, etc. Then render. Here, it's all the options to render. So on the left, this will be the render setting, the quality. So you can choose ray tracing. As I explained, this is the more precise. But if you want to do quick render, you can do real time as well. And then render with GPU. Once again, if you have one, I highly recommend using it. And you have a preset to define the quality. So the sample is the number of light rays which are going to be shot in the scene. So the more you have, the more precise, but also the longer. It depends once again of the GPU performance. The noise level, the lower, the more precise. So you want something. If I do put in high, for example, you see that now it put like way more samples and a lower level. And whatever you do, you can define a max time. So if you put 0, it will mean, okay, I will do the render until it's done with this parameter. If you put a limit, like 30 seconds, it will say, okay, it says, okay, I will do whatever I can within these 30 seconds. So I would say in that case, the preset doesn't count. You would be able to put ultra high and it won't change anything, except for the noise level. You can add a denoise. I highly recommend it in the export. It will remove the small, we call that fireflies, that you could add in all the small points that will try to fix this. And actually, this is something that will greatly improve in the near future. And displacement, as we showed, you want to, when we use displacement to deform the mesh, do you want to apply it or not? Generally, you won't, but you have the option. So I'm going to put that in, let's say in high, 30 seconds. So we'll add 30 seconds. I hope the microphone won't disconnect. Now let's look at the right. So at the right, you have the export settings. So you have first all the cameras. So you can choose which camera you want to choose. If you want to select the size, this is directly in the camera setting. You go here in the camera and you can choose the settings here. For example, in that case, I'm going to change a bit to make it smaller. I'm going to frame it a bit like that. To change, okay, something like that maybe. And if you go back here, you see that now the size has been updated. And then you can, if you don't want to change in the camera, you can override the size directly here. You can put a name, you can put wherever it's saved. By default, it's on desktop, but it can be wherever you want. But a good habit is to save the scene as well. I won't do it right now, but I should have. And you give a name, so my scene. Okay, and it will ask you if you want to save in PNG or in PSD. So I would recommend, if you want to do quick one, PNG is fine, of course. But if you want to do some fine tuning, I would recommend to do in PSD, like this one. And let's hit render. I will try to check that my microphone doesn't cut. So far I'm still here. So as you see, what it will do, it will process the image during 30 seconds in my case, because I fixed a hard limit. It's quite easy. Anyway, you see that here it gives you a perspective of the time it would need to do it. This is an approximation, because sometimes it goes from 1 minute to 30 seconds within 2 seconds. It can happen. Here it's around 30 seconds. First it's to analyze. Okay, it's done. So you see it did 31 seconds. What did I define? So once you have done this, you have two options. You can show the image in the folder like this. Here it's my image. Or you can, no, I don't have. Okay, you can go here and open in Photoshop, and that's what we're going to do right now, because there was some cool stuff that you're going to see. So I have Photoshop 2023. I may open the beta on the side. So just to show you a bit of the beta of Firefly. So now I have that. Still here, yes. You see that, of course, you have your rendering, but it's separated in different channels. First, you have the rendered image here, and I have to see, because in theory, I should have had the noise as well. You have the background color, and as you see, that it's meant like a Photoshop background color. So if I go here, I can directly change the color the way I want, so, which is cool. That's a good thing to work at Adobe. You have access to all this stuff. You have this image, and you have like a folder which is called additional layer. So if I unhide it, you see that you have like some quick map, which lets you define. So you have one which is a material selection mask. So let me choose the one here. So if I select this, I can select like that. I can select by object, like this, or I can select also the depth. So this is super cool, pretty easy, pretty awesome to fake. For example, use this filter. There is one which allows you to make a depth of field directly based on the depth map. So if you don't want to do it within Stager, for example, if you have a weak machine, you can fake it afterwards. But here, for example, the cool thing, if I go back here, I select select this. I go back to here, for example, in the Fido, Control U to change the color. I can change on my assets. So that's a great way to change it quickly. Okay, so I think we have seen. Oh yes, I wanted to show you the beta of Photoshop while we are together. Then I will take your questions as well. So if you have questions, that's the right time to do it. I don't know if it's launching. Okay, this should launch. Okay, so this is the beta with Firefly. It's still lots of surprise, but it allows you to make some crazy stuff, which are cool. So for example, okay, I have it here. I'm going to open the file on my desktop. This one, my scene camera. So what I can do, for example, let's put it this way. So if I do this and invert the selection, and I do generative fill, and I say space. Let's see how it goes. That's funny. It's completely unpredictable, lots of stuff, but I highly recommend it. It's kind of impressive. Sometimes you have like some okay result, but most of the time the results are pretty insane. So if you have access to the beta, yeah, for example, space here, it doesn't work, the stars and galaxy, but that's it. No, even the other one, okay, it tries to make it stars and galaxy. We are live, so it may work. This one is kind of cool. It tried to put the object on the floor and it even mimic the shadow. So that. Okay, yes, so it makes something fancy, but yes, you have some. Not the best that I've seen so far, but the cool thing is try to respect the color palette, etc. I don't know if you have idea. I invite you to test this one because yeah, it could make like some super cool stuff. Anyway, I'm going to wait 1 minute to see if you have questions, stuff which are not clear, that you want to see with me. I'm going to do it again. Sci-fi. Don't know if it will work. Maybe too spacey for him. Okay. Trusting him. Talking about Photoshop, the next live stream I may do something about the new feature capability. Okay, it's cooler. Prefer that. New capabilities of Photoshop, which now well, it handles substance materials, but the beta now handle also filters. So I should explain how to make filters within Substance 3D Designer for Photoshop. I think it should interest most of people here. It won't be in 2 weeks, sorry, it should be in 3 weeks, because in 2 weeks I can't. I'll be in the Festival of Animation of Annecy in France. So yeah, I may skip the 2 weeks and do it in 3 weeks, a bit sooner. And then also don't hesitate to tell me if there is an hour which is better for you. Anyway, I hope it was useful. Once again, sorry for the small technical problem with my microphone. I really have to find the solution for this. Thanks again. Don't hesitate to follow me, to subscribe this way, and register for the next live stream. This way I can make more. I hope it's useful, that you have learned some stuff, and we see each other in the next live stream. Thanks, bye bye.